Welcome to a new episode of the Heroic History Podcast. Today, we're diving into a fascinating period in history, exploring the 7 voyages of Zheng He, the renowned Chinese admiral.
It's amazing how much we tend to focus on European exploration,
Absolutely.
while neglecting the incredible achievements of other cultures.
So let's set the scene. We're talking about the early 15th century, a time when China was a global superpower. And leading the charge was this massive fleet of ships, unlike anything the world had ever seen.
Right, think about Columbus crossing the Atlantic. Impressive for its time, of course.
Yeah.
But Zheng He's treasure ships were on a whole other level.
Okay, so picture this. One treasure ship was so large that it could fit FUR of Columbus's flagships inside. It was essentially a floating city, 450 feet long, with separate ships for soldiers, water, even a vegetable garden.
And it wasn't just about size. These ships were incredibly advanced for their time, incorporating technology like watertight bulkheads, which prevented sinking, and adjustable rudders for navigating shallow waters. Europeans wouldn't adopt these innovations for centuries.
It really challenges our perceptions of maritime history, doesn't it?
It certainly does. The Chinese were centuries ahead in shipbuilding technology, and their voyages were far more extensive than many realize.
Speaking of those voyages, let's talk about the sheer scale of these expeditions. 317 ships, 28,000 crew members, visiting over 30 countries from Southeast Asia to Africa. That's incredible.
Yes, and it's important to understand the multifaceted purpose of these voyages. On one hand, they were about establishing trade routes and bringing back luxury goods like spices and gemstones, but there was also a strong political motivation.
So it was about more than just enriching the empire.
Exactly. The voyages were a powerful display of China's might and influence. Imagine envoys from across the globe arriving at the Forbidden City, bowing before the emperor and presenting exotic gifts. It was a way of solidifying China's position as a dominant force in the world.
Speaking of exotic gifts, the book mentions some truly fascinating treasures brought back from these voyages. Lions, giraffes, even a rhinoceros. Can you imagine the spectacle?
You're right, these animals created quite a stir, especially the giraffe. The Chinese believed it was the mythical Kulin, a creature that signified the emperor's divine right to rule, a concept known as the mandate of heaven.
So the arrival of a giraffe wasn't just a zoological curiosity, but a powerful political symbol. It reinforced the emperor's authority and helped legitimize his rule.
Precisely. It was a public relations coup, demonstrating the emperor's favor with the heavens and strengthening his hold on power.
It makes you wonder, what would the people of that time have thought, seeing these incredible creatures for the first time?
It must have been an awe-inspiring sight, fueling imaginations and solidifying the emperor's image as a powerful and divinely appointed ruler.
Fascinating. But, as with any grand adventure, there were challenges along the way. What about the stories of pirates in the Strait of Malacca?
Ah, yes, the notorious Chen Ziri. He controlled this vital shipping route and was a constant threat to trade and security in the region.
So what did Zheng He do about this pirate problem?
Well, he was a brilliant strategist and a decisive leader. His fleet was far superior in terms of firepower, utilizing sky-flying tubes, which were early cannons and fire bricks similar to grenades.
Sounds like they weren't messing around.
No, they were not. He exploited the pirates' weaknesses, forcing them out of their hidden coves and into open combat. The result was a decisive victory for Zheng He and a brutal end for Chen Ziri.
What happened to him?
He was captured, brought back to China, and beheaded on the emperor's orders. A pretty clear message to anyone thinking of challenging the treasure fleet.
A grim reminder of the harsh realities of that era. But if I remember correctly, there's a darker side to the emperor's reign right. Something about a secret hidden from official records.
Yes. This is where things take a truly chilling turn. The book recounts the story of Lady Kuei, a concubine who kept a diary detailing a shocking event. The emperor, driven by paranoia and rage, ordered the execution of 2,800 of his concubines.
Wow, that's horrifying. 2,800?
Yeah.
What could have possibly led to such an atrocity?
It seems to have stemmed from a power struggle within the Forbidden City. Rumors of the emperor's impotence, whispers of a scandalous affair, it all culminated in this horrific act of violence.
It's difficult to comprehend such brutality, and this was all kept secret.
Completely erased from official records. It's only through Lady Kuei's diary that we get a glimpse into this dark chapter of the emperor's reign. And there's an even more intriguing element. Immediately after the massacre, a fire ravaged the Forbidden City.
Wait, a fire? Could there be a connection?
It's hard to say for sure, but some saw it as a sign of heaven's anger, a cosmic retribution for the emperor's cruelty.
A chilling thought. So after all this triumph and tragedy, what became of the voyages? Did they continue under the next emperor?
Unfortunately, no. The Yongle Emperor's successors had very different priorities. They were more Confucian in their values, emphasizing austerity and fiscal restraint.
So the treasure fleet, with all its grandeur and expense, didn't fit into their vision for the empire.
Exactly. And here's the irony. China abandoned its maritime dominance just as Europe was starting to rise.
So are you saying that if the voyages had continued, China might have remained a global superpower?
It's certainly a thought-provoking question. The long-term consequences were significant. Chinese shipbuilding declined, leaving a vacuum that Europe was quick to fill, paving the way for their era of exploration and, unfortunately, colonization.
It makes you wonder how different the world might look today if those voyages had continued. But we'll delve into that more after a short break. Welcome back. We've been discussing the incredible voyages of Zheng He and the impact they had not just on China, but on the world.
It's a story full of grandeur and ambition, but also tragedy and intrigue, as we've just heard.
It really makes you think about those what-if moments in history,
Yeah.
Like, what if the voyages had continued? What would the global landscape look like today?
It's a fascinating question to ponder. And while we can't change the past, we can certainly learn from it. The legacy of these voyages lives on, offering a glimpse into a time when China was at the forefront of global exploration and trade.
Absolutely. And it's a story that deserves to be told and retold, reminding us of the interconnectedness of our world even centuries ago.
You know what strikes me? It's how these voyages challenge our assumptions about historical timelines and influences.
Yeah, I agree. We often think of global exploration as a predominantly European endeavor. But his expeditions predate the age of exploration by decades.
Precisely, and the sheer scope of these voyages is staggering. Imagine managing a fleet of that size, navigating vast distances without modern technology, dealing with storms, pirates, and the logistics of keeping thousands of crew members fed and supplied.
It's mind-boggling. And all of this was happening under the leadership of Zheng He, a truly remarkable figure.
He was a eunuch, a Muslim, a skilled diplomat, and a fearless leader. A true testament to the diversity and complexity of Chinese society at the time.
He sounds like a character straight out of an epic novel.
He certainly led a life worthy of a grand tale, leading these massive expeditions, overcoming adversity, engaging in diplomacy, and even suppressing piracy with his advanced naval technology.
Speaking of technology, I love the description of those sky-flying tubes and fire bricks used in battle. They sound like something out of a fantasy story.
It highlights just how advanced Chinese military technology was at that time. Remember, they also had those watertight bulkheads and adjustable rudders that we talked about earlier, innovations that put them centuries ahead of their European counterparts.
It's a stark reminder that history is never black and white. While we marvel at the grandeur of these voyages, we must also acknowledge the darker aspects, like the brutal suppression of piracy and the horrific story of the executed concubines.
Yes, it's important to remember that progress and innovation often come at a cost. The voyages were undoubtedly a remarkable feat of human achievement, but they were also products of their time, a time marked by both cultural exchange and imperial ambition.
So for our listener who is clearly fascinated by this pivotal moment in history, what would you say is the key takeaway from all of this?
I think the most important thing is to recognize the significance of China's early maritime dominance. It challenges the Eurocentric narrative that often dominates our understanding of history. The voyages of Zheng He remind us that the world was far more interconnected than we often realize, and that China played a crucial role in shaping those connections long before Europe entered the scene.
And it leaves us with that lingering question. What if those voyages had continued? Could China have maintained its position as a global superpower?
It's a question that continues to spark debate among historians. But even though the voyages ultimately ended, their impact on the world was profound. They facilitated cultural exchange, spread knowledge and technology, and ultimately left an indelible mark on human history.
It's a powerful reminder that history is full of surprises and that we should never underestimate the contributions of different cultures to the global tapestry. But we'll have to leave that thought hanging for now. We'll be back shortly to wrap up our deep dive into the incredible world of Zheng He's voyages. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. As we conclude our exploration of Zheng He's voyages, it's incredible to think how these expeditions centuries ago challenge our understanding of global history.
It's a reminder that the world has always been more interconnected than we often realize.
Exactly. And that China's role in shaping global trade and cultural exchange was significant, even preceding Europe's age of exploration. But as we wrap up, what key insights would you want our listener to take away from this deep dive?
Well, I'd emphasize that history is full of surprises. Zheng He's voyages demonstrate that the past is far more complex and nuanced than we might initially assume. It encourages us to question traditional narratives and delve deeper into the contributions of different cultures.
I couldn't agree more. It's fascinating how these voyages once lost to history have resurfaced to challenge our understanding of the past. Makes you wonder what other hidden stories are waiting to be uncovered.
That's the beauty of history, isn't it? It's a constant process of discovery and reinterpretation. And sometimes the most unexpected stories can completely reshape our understanding of the world.
Absolutely. So for our listener who is eager to learn more, where would you recommend they go from here?
Well, our primary source for this deep dive, 7 Voyages. How China's Treasure Fleet Conquered the Sea by Lawrence Bergreen and Sarah Frey is a fantastic starting point. It's an engaging and meticulously researched book that will captivate anyone interested in this era.
It's definitely a must-read for history buffs. And for those who want to go beyond the book, there are numerous resources available online and in libraries. Documentaries, articles, even museum exhibits can provide further insights into Zheng He's voyages and their impact.
Exploring different perspectives and sources is crucial for developing a well-rounded understanding of any historical event.
I completely agree. It's about piecing together the puzzle, considering multiple viewpoints, and embracing the complexities of the past.
And in the case of Zheng He, the more we learn, the more we realize how much his story challenges our assumptions and enriches our understanding of global history.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the remarkable voyages of Zheng He. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through time and gained a new appreciation for this pivotal moment in history.
It's been a pleasure exploring these fascinating events with you.
Leave us your comments. We would like to know what you think. See you soon.